Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. So I'm sitting here on this like futon thing in my bedroom, and Autumn, the Weimaraner, is on laying on my bed, but she's like perfectly right over my computer. And so I started with the intro, and I swear she rolled her eyes at me. When I started my intro, she's like, here we go again. Do we have to do this every day? Oh, Autumn, you're so cute. Oh, she's wagging her tail. Oh, she's coming over to say hi. She's coming over to say hi. There she is. There's the princess. Say hi, Autumn. Hello. Hello. All right. That's got to be annoying if you're not looking at the video. So I'll stop. Go lay down. Go lay down or sit there. That's fine. Okay. So she's going to lay down, just so you know. All right. She loves us. I just got back from spending the afternoon at the pool with two of my sober friends, and it was so freaking relaxing. It was so nice. It really was. It wasn't that crowded there. It wasn't very sunny. Like the water was perfect. I had perfect conversation. Oh my gosh. It really just, I need to do that more often. Why don't I do that? I just like decided I was going to ask, some people to go to the pool with me, and that two people said yes. I didn't think I was going to find anybody because everybody has a life and has to work, but I found two people that don't have a life just like me. I'm kidding. If you're listening, I'm kidding. So it was beautiful. It really was it was beautiful outside. I felt beautiful inside. It was so lovely. Great conversation. So if you do listen, which I don't think you do, thank you so much for a beautiful day. Today, I wanted to talk about remembering our last drunk. I have a feeling this is going to be very focused on the disease of alcoholism. So if that's not you and you listen for any other reason and you're so tired of hearing about the alcoholism and the drinking, then stop now. Um, what I was thinking of yesterday, this is how it happens in my life now that I'm sober. I always hear what I need to hear if I show up for myself. And so yesterday, I was sitting on the couch with my husband, and we have not yet found, like, our dream home has not yet come on the market. So we were just fantasizing and thinking about what it's going to be like. Like, usually in the evening, him and I will sit and watch the news. That might stress some people out, but for us, I feel, well, he seems like he gets a little stressed out, but I don't really get stressed out, I don't think, unless, the world's coming to an end, which I'm not getting that vibe. But we talk about what's going on in the news. We share our opinions, and our opinions align, so that's why it doesn't stress us out, I think. So that's what we do. He watches the TV. I crochet and look. I either look at my crochet or I just stare across the room, and I listen, and I sit beside the TV so I can hear it. And so last night we were talking about what it was going to be like when we move. And he said, we're not going to have a lot of time to listen to the news. And I was like, why? And he said, because we're going to be so busy with all of our new friends. And I was like, yeah, you're totally right. And he said, I mean, your playmaker meetings are probably going to be at the same time that news is coming on. I was like, you're right. Or I'm going to be at the church, like volunteering my time and all these things. I don't go to church, but I'm gonna. That's what the aspiration is. Or I'm going to be going to my AA meetings, or I'm going to be at the beach, or I'm going to be quilting with my new quilt friends or whatever. So I was like, dreaming about all my friends I'm gonna have. I said, I hope I have so many friends. And he was like, I'm sure that we're gonna make some friends. And he's like, I'm gonna sit on the front porch, that we're gonna have like a covered front porch, and I'm going to be in my rocking chair, and one of my buddies is going to walk by and he's going to be like, hey, we're cooking up some hot dogs, we're grilling, come on over, have a beer. And that was all I needed to hear, the word beer. And my brain shut off from where I was. Like, I was no longer sitting in the room with my husband. My brain transported me to back when I was married to my first husband, to the kid's dad. And we were down at his parents' house. They lived in Burgess, Virginia, off of the Tappahannock. I think it's the Tappahannock. Yeah, I know there's a Rappahannock. I think it's the Tappahannock, off of the Chesapeake. And they lived on the water. They had a deck, and that was my drinking days. And I just drank nonstop. And my father-in-law was in construction, so he had built this big gigantic shop up at the end of the driveway, and they had a big long driveway. And so the shop was more like a barn, like it was gigantic, and there was like a little mini apartment type thing up, like a bedroom up at on the top floor of there. Anyway, all of that does not matter, but I'm just visiting my memories. And I would walk into the shop, and there was two refrigerators side by side in there, and you open these refrigerators and they were stocked full of beer. I mean, like they went to Costco all the time, something. They were always just full of beer. And so while I'm sitting there last night in the living room, I wonder if my husband noticed that I just dazed out and was somewhere else, because I was there. Like, it was so vivid for me. And I was thinking about how it, what I felt like is that I was romanticizing the drink. That's what it felt like. Um, so finally I snapped out of it. I think my husband started talking about something else. I'm not sure what happened, but I snapped out of it and realized what I was doing. So typically, if I have something like that happen, I do not humor those ideas, those thoughts. As soon as I recognize that in my mind, I'm facing this stock full refrigerator full of beer, I will shut it off and say, nope, you're not going to do that. You're not going to think about that. And I think Boris is at the door. Let's go let Boris in. Yeah, Autumn, let's go let Boris in. Sorry, people. I realized that we are live on a podcast. Come on in. Come on in. Okay, it's podcast time. It's podcast time. So just be patient. I know it's time to eat, but it's podcast time. Okay, sorry. Where was I? So I usually don't humor those thoughts. So we went on with our night, and then I wake up this morning and I'm feeling like still that vestibular hangover feeling. I just haven't felt good the past few days, and I know what it's from. It's from looking at Facebook videos. And I haven't done it in 2 days, but yet I'm still suffering the consequences of doing it 2 nights ago. So I wake up, I do my thing with the puppies, let them out, feed them, and then I sit down and I'm like ready to go. I've been feeling pretty positive every morning now about like getting onto my meeting. Anyway, the meeting was the literature was remembering my last drunk. And I thought, okay. I mean, that's the planets always align when I'm sober and I show up. So the reading was talking about romanticizing the drink. And at least that's what I heard. I tell you that what the reading was about may not even be what it was about. Like, sorry, what the reading was about may not always be what I heard. Yeah, but um so I'm listening and I'm thinking, this is exactly what happened to me. So I wrote down what it was that I was thinking of yesterday, that I was thinking of all the beers in my father-in-law's shop and how I used to drink on, down at the end of the dock, and we'd lay out in the sun while my kids were napping, and I would think about the parties that they would have down there, and all the neighbors would come and we'd all drink and we'd laugh and we'd go out on the boat, we'd go out on the sea doos. It was just like, it was, there was nothing to worry about. And that's what I wrote down at first this morning of what I was thinking about. Then I started thinking about, but how did those days end? And I have a lot of endings to those days that weren't so great. So that's what I started writing down. I started writing down what was the impact, or what were the results of me just acting like there was nothing in the world to be concerned about and just drinking all day long. Because there were issues, lots and lots of issues. So I started making a list of what things happened as a result of my drinking, because that's what I have to do. I didn't do it last night. I snapped out of it and then I went on with my night. This morning allowed me to play through the whole tape, run through the whole tape in my memory. And so I wrote down, I couldn't stand up in the shower towards the end of my drinking. I couldn't stand up to get ready for work. I did the worm on the floor of Shenanigans, a bar in Leesburg. I waited for my current husband to go to the bathroom, and then I dropped on the floor and started doing the worm. I was always hiding things. I was dishonest. I drank on the way to work. I drank at work. I drank at lunch. I drank driving home. And when I started writing these things down, I started to feel just like I felt when I was remembering standing in front of that refrigerator full of beer, where I felt like I was home, like I felt comforted, I felt like I was there. Well, when I started to remember, fast forward the tape and remember these things that happened that I'm kind of not kind of, but I'm completely feeling shameful about, that's what I started to feel. I started to feel the shame. I started to feel the anxiety. This morning, I started to feel that feeling of quiet hyperventilation like I used to do back when I was drinking. Boris is running around like a crazy fool. Um, so what I recognized as I was sitting there processing. That's what I was doing. I was allowing the time to process all the way through. And at the very end, I realized I put myself back in front of that refrigerator mentally. And I thought, what did I actually miss when I was standing in front of that refrigerator? What do I miss today that I could do back then, or that I had back then? And I realized it wasn't the beer at all. It was my father-in-law, who has since passed, quite some time ago. He passed from esophagus cancer. And he was a father to me. And he used to call me his daughter. Like, it was a very meaningful relationship for me. And I felt like I was home when I was with him, and he's gone. So I recognize that that memory, although I tend to, by default, think of the beer, think of the drinking, I tend to romanticize the stuff that I could take back if I really tried. I could take back the drunkenness. I could start drinking again. But what I can't take back, you don't think about the stuff that you don't have control over. And the thing that I don't have control over is I can't get him back. And I talked to my psychiatrist about that this morning, and we really went down a very important road that I needed to go down this morning regarding him, regarding missing my father-in-law. Um, so I'm glad that I got to that determination. But think about it. If I didn't show up to my meeting this morning, and it trickled into my next meeting, which was all about step one because we had a newcomer, and it was reiterating the fatal nature of the disease of alcoholism. It reiterated that I have to remember the powerlessness that I had. The pain was required for me to begin a new way of life, to live the way that I am now. And if I hadn't had showed up to my meeting today, I would not have been given the opportunity to play the tape forward, to recognize, to be honest with myself and recognize what the problem actually is today. Because the problem is not that I can't go back and open a refrigerator full of beer. That's not what I want. I love my sober life. I don't want to drink. But what I do miss that I can't have anymore is him, is an important person in my life. And that led me to talk to my psychiatrist about loss and grief and the real pain that I have right now, that I'm so freaking fearful. I don't talk about it a lot in the podcast, but I did start crying this morning because that's how real it is. That's how much it just sits on the surface of my heart every day. Like, I'm so freaking fearful of everybody that I'm gonna lose. I know that I'm gonna lose. And then I start thinking of things I'm sure it's human, and but I obsess about it. And so I don't know. I told her with time, I'm hoping that it'll dissipate. The further I get away from my stroke, the more that will dissipate my fears and my, like, because my stroke happened so just out of the blue. I'm waiting for the next thing to happen out of the blue. Like, you know what? I'm traumatized. That's what I am. I'm traumatized. And, um, thank God that I have my psychiatrist. Thank God I have my AA meetings and um, my support groups, because together we create something bigger than myself. And I need that. I can't live without that. And I know that now. So that is what happened over the past 24 hours. And I wanted to invite you into my mind and the crazy, crazy. So now I'm headed down to finish making some Chinese food. It's a vegetable stir fry. That's what we're going with. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.